Hey, and welcome to CG Jam's green screen track and key series. In this episode we're using Blender version 2.69.9, which is the latest release with the tabs and things. It's also got some cycles, volumetric materials just added, and an update to the bevel tool, which makes it a lot easier to bevel, none of which is relevant to our current project. And speaking of which, let's head over to Hollywood Camera Works and download our project. So this first one we're looking at is the Match Move Test Wide, and if we just have a quick look at this, that's not a very good picture, but let's look anyway. You can see it's just a girl on a green background and the camera's panning around. All very simple, so we'll stop that and close it down. Now if we just hit the HD nameplate link, that'll download it and put it on your hard drive in your downloads file, no doubt. And with that done, we'll just have a look at the specs. 1080p, 30 frames a second. Yep, that's all we need to know, so let's close it down and head back to Blender. Okay, as I say, we're using version 2.69.9, which is a new build. If you want to use this build, you can go to the buildbot.org for Blender, and there'll be a link in the text for you to do that if you wish, or you can just use the regular trunk version of Blender 2.69, which is fine for this project. Nothing's changed in the movie clip editor, and so saying that, let's head to the clip editor right now. Right, so the first thing we need to do is open up our clip, so we'll click on the button and go to our file, which is testwide. Click that and click the first one in the series, which is marked 0 on the end, and we can have a look at what we've got. Now, immediately we can see the problems. If I just draw in with my grease pencil, you can see we've got all this extra stuff in the scene which we don't need. All these lights and this bit of the set that shouldn't be there. And we've got this, whatever it is at the side, caught in the frame. And then obviously we've got our tracking markers, which are a problem because they're a completely different colour. As you can see, they're a much darker green than the actual green screen itself, and that's going to cause us some problems trying to get rid of those, but not a huge problem, as you will see. The only other problem is the model. She has this fringing around her outline, kind of a halo, which is a problem, and it's actually a camera artifact. It's not something to do with the green screen, so you've just got to be aware of that. And the other main problem is the fact that the screen itself is the wrong shape, because we need it to be a 1080p, and it's currently a 1280 by 1080, so it's completely the wrong angle. You probably can't see it so well in this video because I think I've stretched it a little when I rendered it out of Blender, the video footage. But it's square, and you'll see it as square on your screen. So we need to fix that, and the way to do that is explained in the Hollywood Camera Works. So if we just pop there and we have a look at what it says about the video aspect ratio, and under the list of words, it tells us the pixel aspect ratio is something to do with the camera it renders at 1280 by 1080 and then stretches it into 1080p HD in the camera. So we need to change the aspect ratio on the x-axis to 150%. Okay, well that's simple enough. We can do that if we head back into Blender right now. And if we look under our camera data display, it says display aspect ratio. If we change the X to 1.5 and press enter, that brings us into the right size. Okay, so now the next job is to bring the clip itself into the RAM. So I'm going to hit Alt A and do that. Cool, that's doing its thing. Okay, now this purple line down here, this is just the footage going into the RAM so that it will play back at full speed once it's done, and we won't have to wait for it, and it won't be as annoying. We'll just leave it to do its thing, go make a brew. Sometimes it can be a little bit slow. It's going quite quickly this time, although not as quick as it could do. Thing to bear in mind when you're doing these things. And we're just following it along, and we're about to run out of footage. And there we go, it's run out. And it ran out on frame 214, so if I stop that and change the end frame of our timeline to 214, then move that back to start at frame 0, because that's the frame number of our clips, if you remember, if you look at them. Okay, anyway, here we go, it's playing back at full speed. You can see the girl's just stood on the green background and the camera's flying around her, like we saw in the preview, only better quality. So now we need to cut out the girl from the background, but we need to get rid of most of the rubbish in the background as well. So we're going to create a mask over the girl, and in order to keep the mask in place we're going to actually track the girl, and we'll do that by first we go to, let's close down the grease pencil, open up the objects tab, and you'll see that our track object is the camera, and we're not doing the camera track. We're going to do that in the next video. We're just concentrating on the keying at the moment. We just want to track the girl, so if we press add, it adds an object. And if we rename this, and this is going to be the mask, so we just call it the mask. Now if I hold down Control and press my left mouse button, my tracking marker is placed in the scene, and I've gone for this top button on the girl's coat. I just want to scale it up a bit so we've got some so we can see in the viewport that we are right in the middle of the button. Almost. I'm just going to adjust that slightly by dragging on the viewer with my left mouse button, and now we can track the scene. Excuse me. So if I come to the left panel in my toolbars under track, if I press the forward button, it tracks forward, and very quickly we are done. Now if I press Alt A, you can see the tracker is nicely following. So now we need to create the mask, and if we come down to the bottom bar where it says tracking, we click this menu and we choose the mask mode. And now holding down Control, we can just draw in our mask. Follow the girl nicely around. Make it fairly wide. Doesn't have to be too compact. We're not rotoscoping the girl out. And now we get to the end and we just need to press Alt-C and close that up. I'm just going to adjust that handle slightly. We just tidy it up a little bit so it makes things easier later on in the video. Yeah, that looks fine. Okay. So now if I press Alt-A on the timeline and scrub through, you'll be able to see that the mask doesn't actually do anything. It just sits there and floats around and shrinks and floats around. So what we need to do is make the mask a child of the track. So if we select all the track by pressing A twice, and then we right select the track and press Ctrl P. Excuse me. If we come into our toolbar and look under active point, you can now see that the mask has a parent, and it's parented. The track is parented to the mask, and if we press Alt-A, you can see the mask stays in place around the girl, although it does still continue to shrink as we haven't told it not to yet, and it buggers off over the side. Never mind. We need to keyframe it anyway to make sure it sticks around the girl. So if we go to our bottom timeline and pick on the auto keyframe button, and then if we just jump up 20 frames, check the mask, make sure she's still in there, and that looks fine. So we jump forward to frame 40, and we can see the mask is starting to get under her feet. So if we click and drag on the handles and just pull those out a little bit, that adds automatic keyframes for the location of the whole track, the whole mask rather. So it's staying more in position now, and we just need to make adjustments as we go up, and we'll keep going up by 20 frames at a time just by clicking on the timeline, making adjustments. And we'll keep an eye on the track like so. Yep. Keep her head out of it. The arms coming in, getting a bit close. Okay. Go up a bit more. Pull those out. You can see it could get quite intense. Well, not intense, the opposite of intense, tedious. If we were to have too many handles on our key mask. I'll call it the right name first time, one time, eventually. Let me just keep jumping up. We'll bring it in a little bit this time on the side. It's always these feet, always the feet causing problems. Yep. Keep going. Oops. Feet again. Pull that down a bit, otherwise we're going to lose the top of her legs. Yeah, and you can click these little handles and just press the G key and move them around with that grab. Or if you just hold down your right mouse button and drag, you can actually drag the handle without pressing any keys, but then you need to remember to press the left mouse button to set the handle in place. There's little finger gymnastics there to keep the mask handles in place, but it's all, you get used to it. One way or another is good, whatever you're comfortable with. And we're almost there. The toes are getting chopped off. Pull that out. You can select multiple handles by pressing C and painting the handles with the circle select tool, or you can press the B button and box select certain handles if that's your preference. Okay, that looks about done. We'll just check the last frame. Yeah, she's in there. Alright, that's going to be fine. Let's have a look at it in the thing, running through in the timeline. Keeping an eye on all those places where she might get cut off, like her legs and her head, the sides of her arm. Just check the borders, that's the easiest. Yeah, we're clear all the way around by the looks of it. Alright, let's stop that. And now the next thing we can do is just jump straight into our compositor. That job's done. Let's move on. Node editor. Excellent. Now if we click the compositing button down here in the middle, click use nodes, click backdrop, and we can get rid of the render layers. We won't need that in this scene. We will need it eventually, but not for today. And if we open up our toolbar, choose image from the list of options and drop it in, open up our image sequence, test wide, first image, open image, there we go. If I just zoom in there, we click on the menu and go to image sequence. Now we're on frame 1, so we need to change that to frames 214. 215 rather, because there's 215 frames and we start on frame 0. So we have the start frame on 1 and with an offset of -1, that gives us a 0 frame start. Okay. Scroll out a little bit. Now if I press Shift Control Select, it will pop a viewer node onto the node tree, and we can actually get rid of all these side panels now by pressing Control up arrow, because they're just in the way at the moment. And we have our thing the wrong size, so I'm just bringing that back with Control up arrow and changing the render size, making sure it's the right size for what we're doing. Okay, and I'm going to move the compositor out of the way because we don't need it and it's just an extra string, and we'll connect that up at the end. Alright, so the first thing we need to add, if I just scroll out a little, using the middle mouse button to scroll there, we need to add in, press Alt A to Control A to bring up my menu. I'll select the scale, change that to render size. I'll zoom in there, render size, and that's taking it down to the right size, so we can see what's going on. Just make sure that's 100% ready for rendering, so we don't forget later. Okay. Now then, just setting up my workspace so that I can see what I'm doing. Now if I click on actually I'm going to get rid of the toolbar and we'll just use the shortcut keys. Of course that's just in the way, we don't need it really. So press Shift A, Control A and add a keying node from the map menu, and we'll just drop that in. And now we need to get rid of the green background and these horrible green tracking markers which are a different colour, which is going to be awkward. And we can do it simply, or rather not simply, by pressing the left mouse button on the green, and that just selects a section based on a pixel, and we can try and refine that, but it's not very good, and we still have all the tracking markers. But there's a little trick that we can do. Let me just reset the colour back to its original green. Now if I choose my colour wheel again and then take the colour picker, and if I hold down the control button and left click and drag it across a range of the colours, Blender will actually sample that range and give us the average value of the selection, and that'll give us a much better key and we can work from there. So now all we really need to do is crush out these tracking markers, and to do that it's quite simple. If we go back to our colour wheel and we just adjust it slightly, if we make it slightly darker, and we're just going to pull it down ever so much, just being careful, and that's just about got it. We're losing a little bit on the feet there, so we'll try and pull it back a bit. This is just slightest fractions of tone that will just help us get a better bit. Oops, too much, I'm pulling everything back in again. Back. Gently. It is a bit of tweaking, but really we're not far off from what we want, so we'll leave it there, and we're going to start and bring in our mask, and that's just going to help us clean up these tracking markers a bit more. So we press Shift A, add input mask, and just drop that there, and we'll connect that into the socket that says garbage matte. Select the drop down and choose the mask from the menu, and nothing happens. And the reason for that is because it's inverted, so we need to go back to our movie clip editor, and over in the mask layers panel we'll just click this black and white checkbox, and that will invert the mask and it should work fine. There we go. And as you can see, it's clipped out all the garbage, hence the name garbage matte. And we just have a look. Yeah, we've got all this guff and crap from the side. We've got all this scenery, check markers, plug the mask in, and it all disappears. Lovely. So now on to the next stage. As we can see, we've still got a few bits, and if we take a little moment just to scrub through our timeline, we'll be able to see just how much of those markers and things are still left in the scene, how much we can catch, and how much we can pull them away. Let's grab our colour wheel, adjust the tone slightly, and that just crushes those out, which is good. And that looks lovely, it looks about right. So now we have the shape of the model, we just need to clear out all these black shadows on the map, because that will give us a transparency and we'll be able to see through the model, and we don't want that. So the way to fix that is if we come down to our keying node again, and under clip white, if we just pull that back slightly, we can start getting a look, and it starts pulling the blacks down and increasing the white tone. It's not perfect, we're going to have to do a little bit more to it, but for now this is looking about right. So if we hold it there, and we'll add another node just to finish that off and pull it in properly. So we press Shift A, add converter, color ramp, and if we drop a color ramp just after the keying node, let's move it along a bit, and if we drag the white slider from the right over to the left, and just crush down those blacks, and you see it pulls out the blacks and we get a nice white map, and that's what we want. Just adjust it a little bit more just to pull it in, make it a bit tighter, and that's pretty much perfect. We are done with that, I think. Yeah. Now that everything's keyed out properly, we're just going to check the key against a coloured background, and this is just going to be a placeholder before we come in to add our 3D background, which we'll be doing in the next episode. And we're just going to have a look and make sure all the colours are okay and that there's no green fringing. So if we just bring in an image node and have a look on our files and see what we've got. Go to the thumbnail view, and no, I don't like these. Let's have a look. Yeah, we'll use this one that we used in one of our test renders. And if we press Shift D and duplicate the scale node so that it fits the render size, plug that in, and then we go color mix. And now if we bring the image of the background and plug that into the top, and we bring the image from the keying node and plug that into the bottom, like so. Now we see our image, and if we bring in the mask and plug it into the factor, okay, that's not looking too bad. But as you can see, we've got these fringes that we talked about at the very beginning from the camera, and they're showing us a dark brown halo, which is pretty ugly, and we need to fix that. If we just zoom in a bit, you can see the edges are quite sharp and jagged, which is not good. That's something we need to smooth out. Neighbours busy outside, if you can hear that, hopefully not. Anyway, let's add a filter and blur node to the mask and try and clean up these edges a little bit. And we'll bring it up just slightly 1 pixel at a time. Let's see how that's affecting it. Yeah, it's looking better. Take it to 1 more, I think. Yeah, 1 more will do. Okay, that's blurred it out nicely. If we come to our keying node again and click on the dilate erode, and we'll pull the mask back a little bit. Press 1. No, that's pulling it the wrong way. We need to go into the minuses. We need to dilate it. Let's pull it back. Yeah, that's pulling it, clearing away those edges. That's looking a lot nicer now. And that's it for our key. That's all we need to do. And she looks quite happy standing in the road there, although she looks like she's in miniature town. Quite funny. Quite funny. If we just scrub through, we see she slides about on the floor, which is not really what we want. But when we come in to put our 3D background later, she'll move properly. But we're just going to scrub through a little bit and make sure that we don't see any artifacts from the key. Okay, and it's all looking good. Everything looks fine and in place for that set of nodes. And brings us to the end of this video. And in our next video we're going to be looking at the keying and tracking. We're going to learn how to use these points in the footage to get a good track so we can place our character into a 3D scene. And we'll show you how to set all that up, and then we'll go into some colour grading to match it all together and tie everything into one full sweet scene. So until then, which hopefully will be pretty soon, I'll be recording as soon as I finish editing this video. So until then, I will let you get on and practice and have some fun with this, and we'll see you next time. Don't forget to rate and subscribe and do all that good stuff, and leave comments for us so we can get some feedback, and we will talk to you again soon. Have fun, take care, and goodbye.